South Africa and Colombia should work very hard to strengthen their bilateral ties. Well, that's the word from Colombia's Vice President Francia Márquez. She's currently in South Africa on an official state visit. She also met with Deputy President Paul Mashatile. Colombia is one of the strategic countries in South America. Khayelihle Khumalo has more.
President is still here in South Africa to engage with this country, a very important country in South America, of course, one of the very strategic partners of South Africa. The Vice President joins us now, so thank you so much indeed for your time, Vice President. Maybe just first of all, tell us about your experience in South Africa.
Thank you very much. We made the decision as a government led by our president, Gustavo Petro, and myself, to make a tour on the African continent to reconnect with this region. Of course, it is very important to us. We have historic ties with the African continent. I am a woman of African descent. The root of my ancestors are here on this continent, and I am here in a very historic context in order to create South-South cooperation ties between our countries, strengthen diplomatic, political, economic relations, and of course cultural relations. Colombia has a lot to offer to South Africa and to the whole of the African continent, and vice versa. Africa and South Africa have a lot to offer to Colombia and South America and Latin America. So we have been here for 2 days. We've met the president, the deputy president of your nation. We have reached very important agreements, cooperation agreements. For example, tackling together the challenges of climate change, actions to mutually strengthen our economies, agreements in education for our youth in Africa and in Colombia and South Africa and Colombia, and culture, of course, cultural exchange, which is fundamental.
Por supuesto, el intercambio cultural es fundamental.
And just once again, Madam Vice President, you occupy a very significant position as a black female. You are a Vice President. What does that mean for you?
Bueno, significa mucho.
It means a lot. It means that I have the mission to reconnect with my ancestors, but also a particular interest in finding out about the struggle of African women who do a lot in their work, in their families, in their society, and who increasingly are in positions of power. And this is an aspect that is fundamental for me. I have met wonderful, powerful women and have had many experiences regarding the struggles that we have seen here in South Africa, and I connect to that to fight against male chauvinism, machismo, patriarchy. So the leadership that I have found here is an example for Latin American and Colombian women, and this is something that we have been building together. It has been passed on from generation to generation in our country to build this over there in Colombia. And South Africa is the land of freedom, the land of Nelson Mandela, who has been such an inspiration. And so being here today is an inspiration to me. I feel very happy.
Es una posibilidad de seguir sembrando esperanza.
All right. And just before I let you go, Madam Vice President, Colombia and South Africa geographically were very apart. How do we boost the economic ties and making sure that we work together in so many aspects?
Bueno, yo creo que hubo un comercio.
There was trade between Latin America and Africa 400 years ago, a trade that dehumanized and enslaved Africans who were sold in conditions of slavery. So these transatlantic routes have somehow existed in history, and I think that this painful route, this route that generated so much pain to humanity, is the route that today we must use and revive in a different way in order to develop trade that could be at the service of life, of social justice, of peace, of breaking the chains of oppression, exclusion, racism, structural racism that affected South Africa and the African continent as a whole, and that also affect America and Colombia, the Americas and Colombia.
Muchas gracias. Thank you so much for your time. Of course, the Colombian Vice President, still here in South Africa, is part and parcel of making sure that these two nations are able to boost economic ties as much as they're geographically apart, but also work together in so many issues, especially in these critical times where there's a cost of living crisis, purely because of so many factors. Khayelihle Khumalo, SABC News, Johannesburg.